Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
Thank you, Tato.
Awesome. Welcome back, ladies. Hope you had a lovely break. So we're going to continue with the questions and answers session. And I just also have some comments for you also on the chat. And Cornelia says she agrees with what Bhumi was saying. Many couples do not want the discipline of abstaining from sexual intercourse during the fertile phase. And also Rita was saying, thank you so much, Ozo. What you have shared here resonates with me. And thank you so much. And we have a question from Dr. Manka Mazizi. And she's saying that, Dr. Ozo, I agree with you that pharmaceutical companies have strong campaigns, but why does WHO and UN for women keep quiet? Should we not also campaign strongly for these safe alternative methods?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mazizi. Definitely, I agree with you. That's where I think if we doctors, because we as professionals should be in the forefront of this campaign and not leave it to politicians to maybe dictate to us what to do or make us or force us to use unethical methods in treating our patients. So, and I think the first campaign is for us to be well informed. Then we'll be able to have strong arguments against whatever it is that is being proposed to us.
Thank you, Ozo.
Okay, good. Can I go on with the last part?
Yes.
So great. I hope we are all back and refreshed. We are almost there. So this time you're not going to hear much of me talking because it says, we are going to look at the modern natural family planning methods. And I will just mention the other two, Creighton's model and Syntotema just briefly. We are basically going to focus on the Billings Ovulation Method, which is the principle of Billings that are used in the other modern natural family planning methods. But we'll start with looking at the benefits. We've already alluded to some of them in our previous discussion, but it's good to appreciate them and to know how much good it does for the woman, and the need for us to really, first of all, personally recognize it in us, use it, and then we can become advocates wherever we are. And the first of it is actually, there is a danger. Some people will think, oh, the natural method is contraceptive method, natural contraception. And that is a misconception. It's not contraceptive, it's not contraception. Like we said, definition of contraception means against conception, against conceiving. But when we're talking of the natural family planning methods, we're talking of fertility, preserving, enhancing your fertility. So it's a fertility, that's why we talked of fertility awareness. Because the natural method empowers the woman to be in control of their fertility. And how does it do it? It's educating women, giving them knowledge, skills that they need to be able to chart and interpret what is happening to them, to learn to tune into those natural signs and symptoms. And then based on that, depending on the physiosocial circumstance of each one, then they will decide the right time that it is to get pregnant, to conceive. And besides that, it's not just about conception, it's about your health holistically, psychological, and biological, gynecological, reproductive. So to monitor it and then maintain reproductive and gynecological health and health as a whole. So now the natural family planning methods, modern natural family planning methods, there's no interference of a healthcare worker because I learn it, I put that effort to learn it, and it becomes second nature to me. Unlike the artificial ones, like I've already alluded to, where it creates a dependency between us and the healthcare worker. Again, it helps us to preserve fertility. Well, like it's obvious, there are no side effects. It's cheap, it's safe. We don't need to spend anything. There is also with contraceptives, there's what we call opportunity costs. It's not only the financial cost of buying it, but financial cost of having to treat all the side effects. And sometimes it's also a psychological cost. And like in some of our public sectors, that means when the government supplies them free of charge, when it's not available, patients cannot access it. There are no medical contraindications to natural family planning. It's ecological. Also, it doesn't, we conserve our environment. And also the beautiful or the benefit of promoting couple responsibility, couple autonomy. It fosters that communication, respect, and total acceptance among couples. And it's a method that is acceptable within all cultures and religions, and with all its other psychological and spiritual benefits. So we're going to watch this video. It's going to give us an overview of Billings Ovulation Method. Like I've already mentioned, the Billings method is the foundation for all the other two modern family methods. And like you will see, it's a method that is easy and simple to use. So enjoy.
The Billings Ovulation Method, a natural method of fertility regulation. Way to check pregnancy, postpone or avoid pregnancy, and to monitor. This method is easy to learn, it's simple to use, involves no drugs or devices, and therefore there are no side effects. It's a reliable method, and it's morally acceptable to all cultures. When we talk about fertility, we're talking about fertility of the male and of the female. Male fertility begins at puberty, with the start of sperm production. Female fertility also begins at puberty, but is cyclic, with the woman being potentially fertile for a few days to about a week each cycle, and her fertility declines to finish at menopause. Male fertility plus female fertility equals couple fertility, the ability to have a baby. It is because the woman's fertility is variable that she needs to be able to understand and identify confidently the different phases of her cycle. Firstly, she needs to understand the function of her reproductive organs. Women are born with 2 ovaries, which contain millions of immature ova or eggs. During each cycle from menarche to menopause, 1 or more eggs will mature and develop and be released at ovulation. The ovaries produce the hormones estrogen and progesterone, which control other aspects of the woman's fertility. The fallopian tubes lead from the ovaries to the uterus. It is through these tubes that the sperm have to travel to reach and fertilize the ovum or egg if conception is to occur. Then the fertilized ovum, the embryo, must travel back along the tube to the uterus, where it will implant and the baby will grow. The endometrium, under the influence of the ovarian hormones, develops during each cycle and is shed at menstruation if no conception occurs. The cervix is the neck of the uterus. It has a vital role to play in fertility, for it is there that the mucus is produced, which can keep sperm alive in a woman's body until they can reach and fertilize the egg. This is also controlled by the ovarian hormones. The vulva is at the exterior of the woman's body, outside the vaginal opening. It is highly sensitive, and the woman using the Billings method learns to tune into the sensations felt at the vulva as she goes about her daily activities. She feels the presence of mucus, which has flowed down from the cervix, and this alerts her that she is in her fertile phase. The vagina leads from the vulva to the cervix and uterus. It is where sperm cells are deposited at ejaculation and the passage whereby a baby enters the world in a natural birth. The pockets of Shaw are situated low in the vagina. Controlled by progesterone, which rises just prior to ovulation, they extract moisture out of any mucus passing through the vagina, thus alerting the woman to the rise in her progesterone that accompanies ovulation and hence her peak fertility. To use the Billings Ovulation Method, a woman must keep a daily record. She records at the end of each day the observations she has made throughout the day. These observations are of her sensations experienced at the vulva and any discharge she may have seen as she goes about her normal activities. She does not need to touch the vulva or the mucus or make any internal examination to make these observations, as this will lead to confusion. The observations are recorded on the chart at the end of each day and reflect the most fertile characteristic experienced that day. She uses her own words to describe what she feels at any discharge seen. There are two systems of charting that can be applied: coloured stamps or a system of symbols. These are added to the chart to give a visual representation of the pattern observed. The cycle begins with menstruation as the endometrium is shed. The woman is familiar with the feeling of wetness caused by blood as it arrives at the vulva. It is the awareness of this vulval sensation that is the basis of the Billings Ovulation Method. She records the sensation of wetness on her chart. Applies a red stamp or the symbol of a large dot. As menstruation diminishes, she may recognize a change in the sensation to stickiness or dryness. In most cycles following menstruation, a dense plug will form in the cervix. The woman will notice an absence of mucus. This plug is penetrable to sperm and also protects the reproductive system against infection. The sperm cells die off quickly. The couple is infertile. The ovaries are inactive. There is no mucus flowing from the cervix, so the vulva feels dry. This phase of the cycle is called the basic infertile pattern, which is an unchanging pattern. If the woman feels dry and sees no discharge, it is recorded with a green stamp or the symbol of a vertical stroke. Another woman may experience an unchanging pattern of discharge which stays the same day after day and cycle after cycle. This is her basic infertile pattern. In cycles of average length, it is caused by small fragments breaking off the lower part of the plug, resulting in this slight discharge. At this time, the couple is infertile. In the first cycle of charting, this discharge is recorded with a baby stamp or the symbol of a circle. In subsequent cycles, when the pattern is seen to be unchanging from cycle to cycle, it is recorded with a yellow stamp or an equal sign. 3 cycles are recorded to ensure the woman can identify the first point of change in sensation and/or the appearance of the discharge. As for the woman who is dry, there is no entry of sperm during this basic infertile pattern. The basic infertile pattern for a woman with an average length cycle will be either dry or an unchanging discharge. The fertile phase of the cycle begins when the ovaries start to produce estrogen as the egg develops. Estrogen now stimulates the cervix, causing it to produce a particular type of mucus, which dislodges the dense plug. The woman notices a change in her observations. Sperm can now enter the cervix. The couple is potentially fertile. Sensation is recorded with a baby stamp or circle. The woman with a basic infertile pattern of unchanging discharge will also notice a change at the vulva when fertility begins. As the ovaries produce increasing amounts of estrogen, the woman will notice a changing pattern. The mucus becomes progressively wetter and then slippery, and she may see clear strings of mucus. The maximum amount of mucus may diminish, but the slippery sensation may continue for a day or two. The last day of the slippery sensation is called the peak day. It is the most fertile day in the cycle and occurs very close to the time of ovulation. The peak day, the last day of the slippery sensation, may be associated with increased sensitivity, fullness and softness of the vulva. Progesterone is now starting to be produced. Ovulation is about to occur. The woman no longer feels lubricative at the vulva. The slipperiness is gone and she may feel dry or sticky. On this day of change, peak is recognized as the last day of the slippery sensation. She marks the peak day on her chart with a cross at a count of 1 on the day of change. Ovulation occurs on the peak day in the majority of cycles, but may be delayed until day 1 or day 2 past the peak. The egg will live for 12 to 24 hours. During these 3 days past the peak, the plug of mucus reforms in the cervix. Sperm may still enter the cervix until the end of the 3rd day. The 3 days past the peak are marked with a numbered green or yellow baby stamp or relevant symbol, depending whether she is dry or has a discharge. The final phase of the cycle, from ovulation to menstruation, is called the luteal phase. From the 4th day past the peak, the cervix is closed and sperm cannot enter. Unless conception occurred, the egg is already dead. Fertility is over for this cycle. The remainder of the cycle is charted with plain green or yellow stamps or the relevant symbols, depending whether the woman is dry or has a discharge. The cycle ends with menstruation. In a fertile cycle, menstruation occurs 11 to 16 days after ovulation. The plug has once more left the cervix to allow for the flow of blood. The woman now starts a new line on her chart to show the beginning of a new cycle. The Billings Ovulation Method, based on the science of reproduction and the simplicity of the woman's observations, has 4 rules. 3 early day rules, the peak rule. First early day rule, avoid intercourse on days of heavy bleeding during menstruation. This is because in a short cycle, fertility may begin before the bleeding has finished, thus obscuring the presence of mucus. Second early day rule, alternate evenings are available for intercourse because these days have been recognised as the basic infertile pattern. The couple should wait until evening so that the woman is up and active long enough for the mucus to flow down to where she can feel it at the vulva. If the couple has intercourse in the evening, the woman will feel damp and see seminal fluid the next day. She should not assume that there is no mucus present. The couple waits for a day so that the basic infertile pattern can be confirmed before intercourse is again available in the evening. This applies whether the basic infertile pattern is one of dryness or of discharge. Third early day rule, avoid intercourse on days of discharge or bleeding, which interrupts the basic infertile pattern. Allow 3 days of basic infertile pattern afterwards, before intercourse is resumed on the 4th evening using the second early day rule. Early day rule 3 is used in every cycle when the change from the basic infertile pattern occurs. If the change proceeds to a peak, the peak rule will be applied. If If the peak was not recognised, the change reflects an interruption to the basic infertile pattern caused by raised estrogens. The couple waits for the duration of the change until the basic infertile pattern is again recognised. They then wait a further 3 days of the basic infertile pattern before resuming intercourse, applying the second early day rule. This chart demonstrates correct application of the third early day rule when ovulation has been delayed. The woman has a basic infertile pattern of dryness. On day 8, she noticed a change. The couple waits, and when the BIP is resumed on day 11, the count begins. A further change occurs on day 12. Again, the couple waits until the BIP returns on day 13, and the count of 1, 2, 3 is applied. Day 17 shows another change to the BIP. The rule is applied. When bleeding interrupts the BIP on day 28, the woman knows this is not menstruation because she has not recognised a peak. The third early day rule is again applied. The peak rule. From the beginning of the 4th day past the peak until the end of the cycle, intercourse is available every day at any time. If the intention is to avoid pregnancy, this allows time for the egg to have been released and to have died before intercourse is resumed. Ovulation will not occur again until the next cycle. The Billings Ovulation Method is an observation of patterns. Potential fertility is recognised by a changing, developing pattern of variable length. Infertility is recognised by the unchanging nature of the pattern. The Billings method can be used to assist couples wishing to achieve pregnancy. The early day rules are applied to enable the couple to recognise the beginning of potential fertility. It is then recommended that intercourse be postponed until the sensation becomes slippery, which occurs close to the time of peak fertility. Intercourse over this time of slippery sensation and for 1 or 2 days following the peak will maximise the chances of conception. The Billings method is a reliable, natural means of avoiding pregnancy. A great deal of scientific research has proved the validity of the rules. The early day rules are applied before ovulation, and the peak rule is applied following ovulation. The Billings Ovulation Method is scientifically valid, yet is simple to use whether the intention is to achieve or avoid pregnancy. The keeping of an accurate chart and the correct application of the 4 rules will enable the couple to manage their fertility naturally. It can be effectively used throughout all stages of reproductive life, including following childbirth or miscarriage, while breastfeeding, approaching menopause, or when coming off contraceptive medication, whether cycles are long or short, regular or irregular. Independent international trials have shown the Billings Ovulation Method to be better than 99% effective for avoiding pregnancy when the guidelines have been followed. Couples using the Billings Ovulation Method to plan their family naturally can attest to its many benefits. It is the most thoroughly scientifically researched method of family planning available today. It empowers couples with a knowledge of their joint fertility. With knowledge comes understanding and respect for the potential of their fertility with its life-giving capacity. Both partners are involved in joint decision-making about their fertility, giving them the freedom to choose in each cycle whether they use the method to achieve or avoid pregnancy. As it is completely natural, there are no unhealthy side effects when using the Billings method. But more than this, the charting reflects the woman's reproductive health, alerting her to any abnormality often before other symptoms are revealed. Thus, she will seek medical assistance at an early stage when treatment is most likely to be effective. Because the method demands that the couple work together to achieve their goals, it enhances the relationship by increasing communication, mutual respect and love. The gentle discipline of abstinence ensures they don't take each other for granted and keeps their relationship fresh and new. In order to ensure success when using this method, the woman must make daily observations and chart accurately at the end of each day. It is best if both partners are motivated and there is loving cooperation in achieving their joint goals for their family. The use of the Billings method to avoid pregnancy requires times of waiting without intercourse over the fertile time. The Billings method is incompatible with the practice of withdrawal or the use of barrier methods of contraception, such as condoms. Such practices obscure the behaviour of the mucus and make consistently accurate observations impossible. Doctors John and Evelyn Billings of Melbourne, Australia, have developed the Billings Ovulation Method over more than 50 years in collaboration with other marriage counsellors, medical scientists and the couples themselves. Where possible, the couple will derive benefit from consulting a trained teacher of the Billings method who can assist them to interpret the woman's individual pattern of fertility and infertility. Start charting today. Teaching centres are located in many countries throughout the world, details of which can be found on the website at www.woomb.org, which also contains a great deal more information about the Billings method, including a list of all the authentic literature. Specialised programs for health professionals and educators are available. If you would like to become a Billings Ovulation Method teacher, please make contact with us for details. You can also contact us by email, fax or telephone, or write to...
Okay, so that's the end of this on Billings, overview of Billings method. Just briefly on creating model system, fertility system, like we've said, it has the same principles. It's normally termed the single check method because again, it works on the observation of mucus discharge, which is a daily observation and recording. It has its own chart as well. But in addition, it also has what you call NAPRO technology, which is a medical and surgical approach to correcting any pathologies that might be picked up from the chart of the woman who is using the creating model system. Then symptotemal, it's normally termed the double check method because it not only uses the cervical mucus observation and charting, but also incorporates taking the basal body temperature. Like we know, the temperature of a woman will rise after ovulation, although it's true that it's prone to be influenced by a lot of things happening to the woman. Then also the other symptoms, physiological symptoms, like you've talked about swelling of the vulva and all that the couple might decide to add on to the cervical mucus observation. Again, in this way, the woman is able to recognize the fertile phase and infertile phases of her cycle, which needs to be charted daily. So now, in conclusion of this part, I just want to, of the whole session, just some take-home messages. And then the first of them is that, that reproductive health is a prerogative of every woman. So we need to tune in. We need to know what is natural. We need to be in control of our reproductive health. And again, the other point that the body's natural signs and symptoms are effective communicators of fertility. So we need to find tuning into that which is natural for us, which is second nature to us. In this way, we're able to identify when there's something goes wrong. And sometimes what goes wrong is not necessarily a pathology. Maybe it's just to tell us, hey, can you stop a bit, take it easy. Step backwards. You're running too fast. You know, the roller coaster is going to run you down. It's simple to learn. It's easy to use if correctly taught and applied. And well, the fact that Billings Ovulation Method or natural family planning takes time to learn, it's applicable to any other lifestyle changes when we are helping patients to maybe to avoid complications of their medical conditions. It requires, again, strict discipline. They need to cut down on certain things if they really want to their medical condition to be stable. And the woman is fertile if there is ovulation. So it's not just, we shouldn't focus only in whether I'm bleeding every month. It's actually, the question is there ovulation taking place? And is the luteal phase adequate? So abnormalities in menstrual cycle should be thoroughly investigated, diagnosed and treated accordingly, and not be masked by merely taking contraceptives. So these are, I just highlighted some of the countries in Africa where we have accredited teachers. Well, these are just the Anglophone countries. I haven't included the Francophone countries. So for us to know that the Billings Ovulation Method, actually, it's widely used all over the world and in the African continent in particular. Thank you.
Thank you
These
so
are some
much.
other resources in case we might tune in and look for other information. So that's all from me.
Thank you. Also, if you can also just keep the slide where your contact details are, I think people want to take them down to contact you.
Okay, I think my contact detail was on the first slide. So maybe I should just go back. Okay, here, it's here as well, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So we just have like 2 questions, but I will read to you comments from Seja as well. She says, this is holistic fertility awareness should be part of life science curriculum at high school for both boys and girls. It's so insightful. Thank you. And then Monica says, totally. And Nadia asks, how long before marriage should a woman start to chart in order to become fully knowledgeable?
Well, actually, the Billings Ovulation Method, any young girl can actually be taught as long as they are menstruating. So now we have, in other parts of Africa, for example, I will mention, I was at a conference in Republic of Benin on Billings of International Conference, which was organized at Republic of Benin, West Africa. And in many of the schools, the young girls are taught. And also there's a program which I, hopefully when life goes back to normal, I have for teenagers. It's called the Teen Star Program. And the Teen Star Program incorporates teaching young girls to chat. And the Teen Star Program, the beautiful thing about it, it's a program both for boys and for girls. So while it teaches, amongst all the other things, areas it covers, is charting the menstrual cycle. And again, it includes, for the young people, charting the emotions. The same applies to the boys, charting the emotions, so that they will understand why these fluctuations of emotion that goes on in them when they are going through the pubertal surge. And yes, anytime is a good time to start learning the natural family planning. Even when couples that have been married for many years, they can still learn it. What we encourage couples is, it's better you do it as couples, because you need the cooperation of your husband in order for you to be able to apply it, because it involves a whole lifestyle change for the two of them.
Thank you, Ozo. And Rosie asked, can you please explain the early day rules and peak rule again? I didn't quite understand it from the video.
Okay, it's called early day rules because those are the rules that guide how you interpret what your mucus discharge that you've charted before ovulation. And your peak day rules apply after ovulation has already occurred. So now early day rule 1 says, when you're menstruating, when there is heavy bleeding, no intercourse. Why? Because when you're menstruating, of course, you constantly feel wet, blood is coming out, and that is the dominant discharge you're going to see. So now, if your mucus discharge starts early for women who will have a short cycle. Short cycle doesn't mean it's abnormal. Short cycle can be the woman who will have about the 24, but then the menstruation can overlap the fetal mucus discharge. So the danger is that woman might miss that discharge. So the early day rule 1 says, at that period, do not avoid sexual intercourse. Now, early day rule 2 says, because normally immediately after menstruation, the discharge that the woman will feel the following days will actually reflect what her basic infertile pattern is. Because like it says, basic infertile pattern or infertility means whatever you're charting, the discharge you're seeing, you feel, and or you see is unchanging. When you describe it, because you tell the woman, you have to describe what you feel and what you see. It has to be your own words, because that is what your body is telling you. So if your description is the same day in, one day after the other, and it's unchanging, that becomes your basic infertile pattern. It's either what you're feeling and seeing is dry, meaning you don't feel anything at the vulva, you don't see anything. As opposed to somebody who will have some discharge, she feels something, she needs to describe it in her own words, and she might or might not see. So always the sensation is the most important observation you need to record that helps you interpret your chart. Okay, now early day rule 3 now tells you, once you have recognized what your BIP, and normally your basic infertile pattern, the woman should have at least charted 2 to 3 cycles to be confident that she's actually charting properly and interpreting properly. Then she knows what her basic infertile pattern is. So now if anything changes from that, that means now there is a changing pattern starts, and any changing pattern can mean you might be getting fertile. So early day rule 3 says wait and watch. So that means no intercourse, watch, chat, and let's see what is happening. If you're going to, it will progress into the fertility mucus or not. Okay. So now these are all what is happening before ovulation. Now, after ovulation, once ovulation has occurred, you not talk of the peak rule. Peak, just saying that peak, you use it to describe the maximum reflection of fertility, and which announces that actually ovulation is happening. So the peak rule says from the 4th day after the peak, the cervix is closed, the egg is dead, fertility is over in this cycle. So intercourse is available anytime of the day. So the critical issue first is the woman needs to learn to tune in, and then gradually learn to apply the rules. You can't learn it at a go. You need to, it's something that one needs to start doing actually in practice to be able to be familiar with it.
Thank you, Ozo. A message from Emma. She says, thank you so much. It was very informative. And Cornelia says, thanks very much, Dr. Ozo, for this wonderful presentation. And Monica asks, at what point should you speak to your boyfriend or potential husband about these practices?
I think if you're dating and you're seriously considering settling down together, I mean, if you're dating, I would say if you're dating at a point, it should be one of those discussions that come in. Because I suppose at a point you start addressing critical issues. So he already should know, because it's the fact that you're chatting is already you're expressing your values. Does he share the same values like you do?
That's true. Thanks, Ozo. And then a question from Dr. Manga Mazizi. She says, thanks, Dr. Ozo. I guess when in the process of understanding one's cycle, one may not use oral contraceptives, since in my view, they may affect the physiology of mucus secretion, etc.? And if this is correct, what advice would you give to avoid accidental pregnancy?
Okay, so again, thank you for that question. It's good you brought it out so that I can clarify the point. That's what separates fertility awareness-based methods and natural family planning. Okay, so for a couple who are learning Billings Ovulation Method the first time, you normally tell them no sexual intercourse, no form of touching and genital contact, because just any of those will mask, because it triggers hormonal reaction that doesn't actually reflect the true state of what is going on with the circuit, your hormonal regulation. So it's that's why it's important as couples that they talk to each other, they both agree and support each other, because it will require some form of discipline within that period of initial learning of the method. So then if they really know what they want, the danger of accidental pregnancy will not come in. And like we said, the natural family planning method is not contraceptive method, it's fertility awareness. So let's happen just a casuistic that a couple accidentally doesn't apply the rule properly and they get pregnant. Many times it's actually not a big issue, unlike couples who are using it as contraception. If already you have a contraceptive mentality, again, like I've said, it's not because the method is not effective, it's because the couple either interpreted it wrongly or applied the principles wrongly. So that's why right from the beginning, they need to be clearly tuned in, motivated, ready to support each other, and then to learn the method properly from an accredited teacher. So fertility awareness, yes, people can end up applying even contraceptive method, barrier or oral contraceptives, but for natural family planning is strict abstinence during the fertile period. We do not combine methods.
Thank you, also. And I think this was our last question for today. And for everybody, I've just put down Oz's information in the chat, so you can just copy and paste it where you want it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Yeah.
And so, yeah, thank you, everybody. It's for me, it's like I've mentioned at the initially, it's a topic that I'm passionate about, and it's actually a presentation I've been planning to do. So I'm actually happy that finally it did take place. So for those who were not haven't been able to join us, the seminar has been recorded and we're going to make it available in case you want to also circulate to friends. And thank you for being present, because if you hadn't attended, we wouldn't have been able to have this session.
Thank you. I just wanted to say what an appropriate topic on Women's Month, on Women's Month in South Africa, you know?
Yeah,
It's a very, very appropriate topic, you know, for us as women. And your timing was very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ozo. And there's just a couple of comments coming in that saying thank you so much. They're looking forward to seeing you more on these kinds of platforms. And Jessica's like, I love this and will definitely share it with others. And Maggie says, thank you so much. I learned a lot. What a positive way to look at female fertility. Thank you, ladies. And I hope you have the rest of a good Women's Month ahead.